Welcome, everybody. My name is Tatiana, and I'm here in Canada, and I'm so happy to be here today. And would like to thank you for your participation, expressing our joy for such a special moment of studying, sharing experiences, and learning about Spiritist education. This event has been organized by the Children, Youth, and Family Area of the International Spiritist Council, aiming to strengthen the union and unification of the Spiritist movement for the sake of heart's regeneration and the construction of a new world. The ISC Children, Youth, and Family Area, that affectionately we called CYFA ISC, is responsible for promoting the study, practice, and dissemination of Spiritism among children, youth, and families. The CYFAISC Commission is currently composed of several countries that have been working together in an integrated, collaborative, and collective manner in order to put together important actions that we hope will strengthen this blessed and relevant task. Oh, Mirella, you muted.
I'm so sorry. Hi, everybody. My name is Mirala Lima. I'm here in California, and I'm very happy to be here today. So, in order to achieve our goals as Spiritist educators, it's essential for us to keep ourselves updated for this task. The Seeds of the Future project is one of the ISC initiatives under the Children, Youth, and Family Area Actions, which purpose is to promote continuing education for Spiritist educators through video lives and workshops. We believe this is a strategic and relevant project for the increasing quality of our actions among children, youth, and families, whether physically at the Spiritist institutions or virtually. This was a project started in 2020 that has been reducing boundaries and gathering dedicated hearts spread across the world, straightening us in a common ideal. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. It's Karina from Italy. Our live today is about children and young people building virtues for peace. We are presenting today two topics for this roundtable discussion. First, Beatriz Lopes, who lives in the United States, will talk about strengthening and living virtues in the light of the gospel of Jesus. Children and young people as potential agents of peace. And our second topic, the importance of Spiritist evangelizing educational action for strengthening virtues and living values with children and young people, will be presented by Andreia Marshall. This live that is in English has already been developed today in Portuguese and Spanish. We have invited some dedicated colleagues who share their reflections and experiences according to the different topics.
Now, to help with the harmonization of our life, we'll listen to this beautiful song named Everyday a Movement, written by Cacá Rezende. And right after the presentation, we'll say our opening prayer.
Todo dia, antes de dormir, faço movimento, ligo o pensamento. No meu dia, o que foi que eu fiz? Se foi tudo bem, fui feliz também. Todos os dias, antes de dormir, hago movimiento, conecto el pensamiento sobre mi día. Que hice yo? Si todo estuvo bien, fui feliz también. I wonder if I gave enough attention and listened carefully to my emotions. I wonder if I did good or not. I am an immortal soul. Cuidei da minha mente, corpo e coração, e coloquei vontade nos meus pés e mãos. E quando eu não sabia o que fazer, chamei Jesus pra me acolher. Todos los días antes de dormir, mi emoción, cuerpo y corazón. Todo dia antes de dormir, faço movimento, ligo o pensamento.
Well, that was a beautiful song. And at this moment, we invite everyone to close our eyes at the same moment that we open our hearts. Dear Jesus, here we are once again talking to you, the educator that as Spiritist educators, we all dream to be one day. And meanwhile, we are in this journey trying to follow your steps. We just ask you for be here with us, and that you know how moments like this live event are important for all of us because they touch our hearts, they fulfill our hearts. So may this live be this moment that we all can share and feel your love, your hope, and mostly your peace. And all these virtues can be spread around the world and be felt for every child, every little one, every young person, and every family. We are grateful, dear Jesus, for this planet that you prepare for each one of us. That sometimes worked as our school, but so many times as a hospital, because we are all trying to find the medicine of your love to cure all the sickness we bring inside of us. So, dear Jesus, may this moment be a moment of joy, a moment of being here around friends and talking about a task that we love so much. And we are very grateful to spread your seeds around the hearts of so many spirits. Beginning with our own hearts that are still trying to follow your steps. So be with us once again, dear Jesus, and bless our planet. So be it.
Tatiana, thank you so much for the beautiful prayer. Very inspiring. Thank you. I'm going to now start introducing Beatriz. She's going to be the first speaker today. Beatriz Lopes is currently the Family, Youth, and Children's Spiritist Education FIX Director of the United States Spiritist Federation. She is the representative of the U.S. within the International Spiritist Council Youth Committee. Being a Spiritist since childhood, Bia had the remarkable opportunity to represent Spiritism globally at the United Nations at the age of 16. Since then, Bia has actively taken on various roles within the Spiritist community, from leading study groups to delivering lectures and organizing events like the annual Spiritist Youth Retreat. Today, she will share her reflections about the topic, strengthening and living virtues in the light of the gospel of Jesus, children and young people as potential agents of peace. Welcome, dear Bia.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here, and I'm so happy to be talking about this topic because it's so important for to value the importance of youth. And I think we're always talking about the future, but it's important to note that these changes can happen right now. These are things that are already happening with today's youth, already already there in our world. The seeds are planted, and we just need to keep growing that and keep acting on it. So I'm really glad we get this moment to talk about the importance of youth and how youth are these potential agents of peace. So I think we all know, but just to reiterate and to talk about a little bit, the period of childhood and adolescence is really a remarkable period of life. And when you look at the science of adolescent brain development, it shows that this period of life is when the brain is really rapidly growing, developing, and learning, taking all this information in. So this period of childhood, we're learning from the world around us. Youth are discovering who they are, who they want to become, what they want to do. And this is really important for the development of the brain and of that person. And what's also really interesting to know about the science of adolescent brain development is that this period of rapid growth and development, and what they tend to scientifically call adolescence, actually spans up to around age 25. So it's really important to note that when we're talking about youth, it is important to talk about the younger children, but it is important to note that these young adults that are in their 20s, while they're a lot more independent, they still need that guidance. They're still in that exploratory phase of their life, and they're still in that brain development. So it's really important to know all the different ranges that exist of this really impactful time in a person's life. And of course, we know that while our brain is developing during this period, rapidly developing, growing, getting so much new information, so too are our spirits, especially in the youthful phase, where we know that our spirit is much more receptive to growth and transformation. Spiritism shows us, and especially in question 385 of the Spirit's book, talks about how childhood and adolescence is this remarkable period of growth for the spirit as well. Because in this moment, the spirit is open to new ideas, receptive to new ideas, to things around them, and it's a period that they are very malleable and receptive to changing and improving themselves. During this time is when we can focus on reforming our character, on learning these good morals, learning these important values, and that's where we learn our moral compass. I think we all see, maybe sometimes some people can't explain it, but they can see how at a young age, you can guide those tendencies. You can guide more morals and how to behave and how to not behave and that structure. But as people get older, it gets harder to tell people what to do or to teach them some of these vital skills. And while it's not impossible, it's so important that while youth and young people are receptive to these ideas, are receptive to change and growth, we need to take advantage of that. We need to take a moment to focus on these youth, give them the information, the tools that they need, the moral compass they need to better themselves, to continue that trend going on into their adult life and lives after this one. But of course, we must realize that this growth can't happen in isolation. This growth happens by everything around us, by all of the role models, mentors, educators that are in the life of the youth. And Andreia is going to speak more to the topic of education, so I won't get into it too much, but I do want to highlight that two important aspects of educating our youth and our young people. Firstly, I want to recognize that youth don't just learn from what they read or hear, but everything that's around them. So Spiritism shows us that just like light, our thoughts and our reactions create these mental waves, mental rays that are leaving us and going far and impacting other people. The same way other people's thoughts and actions are coming in mental rays that are reflecting back to us. So we're in this constant exchange of mental rays that we don't see with our eyes, but it's constantly surrounding us. So while we might not be aware of it, youth are not only learning from what they're directly seeing or directly hearing, but also their surrounding world, their surrounding environment. So that's really important because when we think of educating young people, youth, young adults, teenagers, when we think of educating, we need to be aware that it's not just what we say, but also what we do, how we act, how are we demonstrating these values that we want to instill in the young people. So it's not just about saying it. Saying it is a good step, but also when you lead by example, that makes a huge impact and really makes the difference in that education. The other thing that I want to note about education is that it's also not just about receiving knowledge, sitting in a classroom and learning, but it's about empowering youth. And I think that's a really important step in education that can sometimes be lacking, that we're learning all this information, but we need to give youth the opportunity to grow. We need to give them the opportunity to take lead, to make some decisions, to make some change, take action on their own. And of course, they're going to make mistakes, but they also learn from it. So it's really important that not only are we educating and giving the tools, but giving them the opportunity to take charge, to take leadership. I'm really grateful because throughout my childhood and adolescence, I've had a lot of very supportive adults in my circle who have always inspired me and also pushed me and given me the opportunities that I needed to grow, to be able to do things like this lecture, speaking with you all today. It's because I had supportive adults who at a young age allowed me the opportunity to start taking leadership, to start taking action, to start giving lectures. And of course, there's always mistakes along the way, but we learn from those, and that empowerment is really what creates these future leaders and these future agents of peace. But of course, I also want to talk from the perspective of not just education, but to the youth and to the adolescents and the young adults. We don't have to simply look to adults for guidance. The power to create change is within us, and it starts with us. So while it's so important that we have these supportive adults in our circle that are helping us and guiding us, we also have to make that change ourselves. We need to look inside and what can we do? Sometimes we're waiting around, oh, I'll do that when I'm older, or I'll do that when someone lets me do that. But we can also take the steps we need to start making change ourselves, to start being peacemakers ourselves without worrying about what anyone else is doing around us. In the book, Thought in Life, Emmanuel gives us a message about education, and he says, education is not achieved merely by instruction from the outside. Rather, it must have the conscious consent of the will. When the will dedicates itself freely and spontaneously to goodness, without any constraints, it can liberate and refine the heart. So, getting into that quote a little bit, right? It's not just from instruction on the outside. That's super important and that's necessary. We need that instruction, that guidance, that demonstration, right? Seeing other people do goodness, but it comes from the inside. People can say all they want, can teach us all we want, but we need to be the ones that accept that want to pursue those same goals, that want to show those same values in our lives. And when we consent to it, when we allow our will to open our hearts to those teachings, that's when we'll make the difference. So it's not just about learning and hearing all this information, but really allowing ourselves to take a moment to let that information sink in, to really apply it into our lives. And that's up to us. That's up to young people. That's up to everyone on their own individual journey of what change they're going to make in their lives. We have the control to dedicate and apply ourselves to goodness. And when we do that, we're really going to become those agents of peace that we want to be. And on the topic of peace, we need to realize that being an agent of peace and wanting to spread peace around the world, we need to start with our own inner peace. Peace is something that we need to have within us. We first need to start with ourselves to then be able to spread it forward. And then it's going to have a rippling effect that goes throughout our communities and beyond. But we need to start with ourselves. And that's something that all us young people can do whenever we get the chance, right? On our own. We don't need to wait for the next thing. We don't need to wait for an adult. That is something that all of us can work on in ourselves, in our own time. As Jesus said, he said, "You are the light of the world." So we don't have to wait. Jesus didn't say you will be the light when you're an adult, or you will be the light when you're more evolved. He said, you are the light of the world. We all already are the light. We all already have that light within us. Now we need to let it shine. And that is up to us. So it's really important that us youth start taking this action and start realizing that, yeah, we can make a difference. It's great if we can have those supportive adults along the way, but we can work together and we can make a change. In a psychographed message that was at FEBI in Brazil, talking about the planetary transition, the Spirit says, it's predicted that in the view of multiple factors that will be at work in the social environment, planetary life will require the sowing of values necessary to maintain peace. So in this moment of some turmoil, of some conflict, and in this planetary transition that's very challenging to navigate or to understand, we're going to need to sow these virtues. We're going to need to have this strong base, this strong foundation to build up all of this change, to support all of this change. And the message continues saying, and young people are being called upon by the spirits who guide the destiny of planetary humanity to cooperate in establishing a new social order. So that is so impactful. This message is specifically calling youth, calling young people that's young people, we need you. You're needed to guide this planet during this moment. By us instilling these virtues in our lives, finding this inner peace within ourselves, we're going to transform the society, create a strong foundation that can be receptive to changes that come with the planetary transition. And in the message, it also continues talking about how well-being and achievements of science and technology are going to be guided by morality. And I really like this mention of that because it can seem overwhelming. Say, whoa, everything, our well-being, our science, our technology is going to be driven by good morals. But it's really interesting to reflect on what youth have already conquered in this space. Youth have already such a wonderful understanding of well-being, especially in the area of mental health. Mental health awareness used to be something that was rarely talked about and that no one spoke of, no one treated, no one properly asked for help when they were going through mental health issues. But we already see in these newer generations that this is becoming much more common. So many people are reaching out for help, are going to therapy, are talking about mental health, the importance of it, and finding supports for their mental health. And that's becoming the new normal. So we already see that way that the young people have started to create this environment that is on good morals and is on, not judging other people or, we need help, let's ask for it. So that's already a great stride that new generations are making in the area of well-being. We also see when we talk about technology, this new technology arising with artificial intelligence, AI. That's a scary topic. There's a lot that AI can do and a lot that can be used for bad if we have bad intentions. But AI has so many powerful uses when we have those morals and those good intentions around it. So there's already, while there are some things that are negative and we have to be aware of those things, it's important to also focus on, look how much good younger generations are already doing with this new technology. So these are just some small examples of how we're already on that path. Although it might seem like the world is, crazy, there's so much going on, and it seems sometimes even hopeless, there are good steps that are already happening towards this progress, and it's coming from the younger generations. And that message continued and said, the youth of the earth are moving forward under the protection of Jesus. Youth advance with its youthfulness and renewing strength, focused on building a better world, founded on the principles of the gospel. So impactful, that statement, saying that the youth who are making the change, who are developing and creating this new foundation of our world based on these stronger morals, are moving forward under the protection of Jesus. Jesus is guiding this effort of these youth empowering, becoming agents of peace so that we can build a better world going forward, and especially based on the principles of the gospel. And finally, the message ends with, onward, young people, Christ is at the helm. So it's a call to action for all of us young people to keep moving, keep doing, keep making changes, keep taking charge, keep putting those virtues in yourself and spreading it out to others, because Jesus is there leading us along the way in this journey. So just to wrap it up, youth, we're not the leaders of tomorrow. We're the leaders of today. We're the leaders of right now, and we can make this change starting now. We don't have to wait. While we need guidance and the support from adults, we can start making that step little by little in our daily lives, focusing on one small thing that we can do. And that's going to have a rippling effect to our smaller communities, our bigger communities. And with every youth doing one small act of kindness, it's really going to go a long way and transform our world. And together, we can all become the agents of peace that our world so desperately needs. So now I'll turn it over to Andreia to tell us a little bit more, though, about those supporting adult mentors that we really do need.
Andreia Marshall is the director at Conscious Living Spiritist Group. Secretary of the Board of the Spiritist Federation of Florida, and Managing Director of Leal Publisher, an affiliated branch of Leal Livraria in Brazil, in the translation and dissemination of Divaldo Franco's Spiritist books, and Fab Publisher, an affiliated branch of the Brazilian Spirits Federation's publisher, in the dissemination of Spiritist titles. She is originally from Campinas, São Paulo in Brazil, and has made the United States her beloved home since 1991. Andrea will share her reflections about the topic, the importance of Spiritist educational action for strengthening virtues and living values with children and young people. The floor is yours, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Karina, Tatiana, Mirella, and also Bia. I am so honored to have been invited to be with you today because of the importance of the topic. And it made me go back a little bit when I was a teenager here in the United States. I was 13 when I arrived, and how important Spiritism became and is in my current reincarnation. So I'm very thankful for being here. And I can't help but gush a little bit when I hear Bia speak, because she said us youth. And that's right. She is part of this new generation that is very different from my time, when Spiritism was given to us as this beautiful tool, this beautiful body of knowledge to assist us. We were doing things that were not as high up in the rank of importance as Bia and the new generation are doing right now. So I'm so excited to be able to witness this. I would like to request the backstage, thank you so much, to bring us our presentation today, because we have a lot of text, and I apologize, but it's so rich in content that I wanted to share with you guys. I'm so sorry, I don't know why my notes are showing, but we'll try to do with it. Allan Kardec, in the Spiritist Voyage of 1862, he basically, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this book. Unfortunately, it's not yet in English, but for those that are able to read in Spanish or Portuguese, it is a beautiful book in which Allan Kardec talks about his travel around Europe, France, to visit the cities and see how the Spiritist movement was growing. And he reached a Spiritist center in which he stated the following. He said, "There is undoubtedly much to believe in, but our beliefs must inspire action and transformation." He was talking about Spiritism. He was talking about the phenomena. He was talking about all of that. And he said, unfortunately, many people find themselves stuck in a rut where Spiritism remains nothing more than a beautiful theory, a concept that fails to change their character of habits. However, among those who are merely credulous or sympathetic, there exists a community a vibrant community of true Spiritists at heart. Not only those that are able to bring it here, but also bring it into their hearts and eventually into their hands in working to disseminate Spiritism. We are inspired by the numerous individuals we have encountered who have undergone miraculous transformations. We can cite countless examples of remarkable zeal, self-denial, devotion, along with many acts of charity that embody the essence of true evangelism. Indeed, these shining qualities represent the most admirable traits of Spiritism. When he utilized this aspect of talking about the Spiritist shining such quality in which it leaves these traits along the way, the signs, and not only that, they're beautiful, they are admirable, it talks to where we have come today. He will say that he was very fortunate to attend meetings in which he noticed the presence of children. And he was very surprised because he said, it's interesting to see how the children It's interesting to see how the children raised with the Spiritist principles often show the maturity that made them much easier to guide. Notice that he didn't say that they were perfect, that it wasn't a task, that it wasn't filled with struggles, but he did say that the maturity that Spiritism brought to their lives made them much easier to guide. In our visits to various Spiritist families, we met many children of all ages in both genders, and it was truly a joy to see this firsthand. Their upbringing doesn't take away their natural happiness or liveliness. Instead, they have a wonderful calmness about them. Unlike some children who can be a bit challenging with their stubbornness and whims, these kids display a lovely mix of kindness, respect for their parents, and a willingness to learn. This made it clear to us how well behaved and eager to study they are. It's interesting to notice Allan Kardec's observations because it is talking about the codifier of Spiritism being present in the very beginning and bringing us the importance of Spiritist guidance towards the youth and how much of an effect, a positive effect, this had towards the children. Bia was very inspired in bringing us the question 383, in which Allan Kardec does question the usefulness of the spirit going through childhood, going through infancy. And they're clear to tell us that that period is extremely important. It is more easily accessible to the impressions, to the molding that it receives, and it assists in its progress. Now, I don't have any children, and I can't say that I know how hard it is because one of the most difficulties that we see happening in the Spiritist Center is how do I get my child to stay at the Spiritist Center? How do I get them to stay in the meeting? And one day I was talking to a preteen, and I asked her, I said, what was the best thing about the class today? I wasn't in the class, thankfully. But she did say, she said, when it ended, which tells us about how well we are preparing ourselves to be able to guide and educate this new generation under the light of Spiritism. Because we are no longer dealing with spirits like myself, where I was happy to participate in garage sales, where I was happy to participate in cleaning the Spiritist Center, where I was happy to do the opening reading. No, the new generation, they are extremely different. Leon Denis and Viana de Carvalho, which I actually utilized a lot in our presentation today, I evoked them to assist me in bringing us information here. They remind us that it is necessary that we understand that children, they come with successive lives. And reincarnation demonstrates that. It demonstrates how different this new generation is before we were, and how we were when we were 13, when we were 14, and we did not have the internet at our hands, social media. We didn't know what catfish was. We didn't know about sexting. We didn't know about all of the difficult things that teenagers face today. And Viana de Carvalho, he talks about it. He says, behind the child, there is an infinity of reminiscences. Pardon me, Leon Denis stated this. There is an infinity of reminiscences and memories. And before them, another infinity of promises and hope. And that is the beauty of educating, of guiding the youth, the child, under Spiritists' guiding light, that lighthouse that is, symbolically speaking, Jesus's light shining all around so that no one gets lost along the way. And so Leon Denis is going to say, they have their acquisitions of the past. They're dormant in every child. The faculties are not destroyed. As they grow, they gather in knowledge, impressions, experiences. There are hidden gems. There are hidden talents that start to become more and more visible. And this is no wonder when Plato stated to everybody that to learn is to remember. It is beautiful to see because in question 385 of the Spirit's book, Allan Kardec is going to ask the benevolent spirits, what is the reason for the change that occurs in the character at a certain age, particularly upon leaving adolescence? Is it the spirit that changes? So, if learning is actually to remember, and the benevolent spirits are going to say it's because the spirit recapitulates the true nature and reveals themselves for who they really are, who they really were prior to the present time, to the present reincarnation. And he said, the benevolent spirit states, you do not know the secrets that the children conceal behind that innocence. You do not know what they are. You do not know where they have been or where they will be. Nevertheless, you love and you cherish them as though they were part of you. And although I myself don't have any children, we see the responsibility of any adult that are actually around children in the Spiritist Center or outside of the Spiritist Center. And Bia was very inspired when she said that it is not enough to teach, but rather also to be. It's important to also be. We saw this beautiful video that I wanted to see if it shows playing, because we saw this quote that Leon Denis brought from the French poet Maurice de Guérin, not French fluent, but he said that the youth are like forests. There are green forests, there are light that actually are troubled by the winds. It weaves, it moves on all sides, the rich gifts of life, and there are some profound murmurs that continuously sound within its foliage, making a comparison between these trees that move in such a way, because the image, considering the youth as that, is beautiful, especially in the terms of accuracy and the truth. Because the youth, let us remember, it wasn't too long ago, and this is so beautiful to see. They are marked by an abundance of energy. There is a focus on the future. And during the stage of life, individuals that are basically the youth, they're eager to connect with others. They're eager to learn. They have this strong, they come with this strong idea of pursuing their dreams. And so during the youth, it is crucial that we have the correct guidance to assist them in the correct directions in life. It is true that as adults, we have a responsibility because we also should be able to open the door for communication. Whereas if they're not able to speak to their parents about certain difficult things, because let us remember that education in the home does go together with the Spiritist education, the Spiritist guidance that we have in our institutions. If they're unable to speak to their parents, we should be able to open a door as an adult, as a big brother, big sister, and allow them to feel comfortable, to have a safe space where they can bring their concerns, their difficulties, their struggle. They forget about the past. There is the forgetfulness of the past. They don't know yet all of that which still lays dormant within them. And Bia talked about empowering. And this is something that I always tell people about Spiritism. It doesn't matter the age. Spiritism is an empowering tool. Jesus did say, you are the light of the world. And he did say also, you can do all that I can and much more. He was the educator par excellence. This is why when we talk about Spiritism, youth and child Spiritist education, it cannot go without Christ, the model and guidance for humanity. And it is true that the youth today seems to have an aversion, right? We do see this a lot in the United States. I have a nephew who doesn't believe in God, but there is something that makes him question. And he will come to Marcelo and I, Marcelo is my husband, and he'll say, Auntie or Uncle, tell me about this God that you believe in. Who is he? And we are able to say, well, the Spiritist book, which is the very first book, which is made up of questions and answers, come to tell us what is God and not who is God. And we start finding a way to speak their language in which it makes it interesting. There is a study that was conducted at Harvard University, and during the questions, I'll try to make sure that I put it in the text of the comments of the video, in which they made a comparison between kids who had a religion, meaning a religiousness aspect of their lives, and those who did not. They followed about 5,000 kids. And what they found is that although some kids did go to church or to whatever institution because their parents said, get in the car and go. This happened to me a lot when I was a teenager. Although I was going to the Spiritist Center on the weekend, Sundays were the day for my grandfather. And he was Scottish and he was Presbyterian. And on Sunday, we went to the Presbyterian church. And out of respect, honor thy father and thy mother, I went. But these kids that they're talking about, it wasn't those type of kids. They were engaging kids that were happy to go because they were made useful. They were made larger than life on what they were capable of doing with other youth. They also found that science, along with the religious aspect, helped them understand the effectiveness of prayer in the health, in the well-being. And so today we see some Spiritist centers offering yoga to help the youth, the child, calm within and try to bring this peacefulness that in reality, if there is going to be an effect out in the world, it needs to start with them. Leibniz, who was a mathematician, a science, a poet, he said, the hope of the harvest is in the seed, the harvesting, the sowing, everything that we see on the books, on the contents that have been brought by the Brazilian Spiritist Federation and the International Spiritist Council. One of the things that we find in Genesis, Miracles and Predictions According to Spiritism, which is the 5th book by Allan Kardec in the codification, he talks about what we are dealing with, the new generation, composed of spirits that are more advanced with a propensity for the good. It's interesting. We need to pay attention when we read these contents that Allan Kardec brings us, because there are keys that open many doors for us to understand who we are dealing with. Spirits that are more advanced, and they are, who are actually here with a propensity for the good, meaning once guided properly with the guiding light of Jesus, this propensity for the good transforms itself into the good person of the world, which is the responsibility of anyone who have been gifted with the presence of a child in their lives. We wanted to go back to the saying in Matthew where Jesus talked about letting the children come to me. And of course, I don't have the thing written here. I forgot my notes. But Jesus, Joanna D'Angeli is going to remind us that Jesus, when he used the moment to talk about the importance of letting the children go to him and utilizing them as models of purity, of innocence, despite their past life experiences as immortal spirits, because they had not yet reached the age of reason and discernment between what is good and what is evil, that fantastic achievement of the self, which Joanna D'Angeli talks about. He repeatedly referred to them with this tenderness, praising their innocence and determining that they should never be expelled from his presence. For they too were worthy of partaking in the banquet of the good tidings, of the good news, of the teachings of his gospel. This is why children and Jesus go together at all times. Spiritism, evangelization, education, and building environments, experiences, and relationships that promote peaceful virtues and values. This was part of our topic today. So blessed are they peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. How are they peaceful? How are they bringing about this peacefulness that have the virtues and values installed with it? And this is what we say. Jesus is the ultimate peacemaker and the ultimate educator, role model and guidance for humanity. And so we have the door. We have the door that needs to be open, and the key with Spiritism is going to facilitate that. One of the things that we must remember when the things of educating a child is actually also contained in the Gospel according to Spiritism, when Allan Kardec talks about the importance of understanding the grand role of education. He says, "Oh, Spiritists, you must understand humankind's grand role. You must understand that when you produce a body, the soul who incarnates in it has come from the spirit world in order to progress. Know your duties. Put all of your love in leading that soul to God. This is the mission that has been entrusted to you and for which you will receive recompense if you're faithfully able to fulfill it." Because we are able to tell from the very beginning, if we are vigilant with our child, from the moment of the cradle, we can start picking up here and there where there is aggressiveness, where there is the feeling of envy between children, where there is a feeling of jealousy. And so he's going to say, do as the good gardeners who cut off the defective shoots as soon as they appear in the tree. And I wanted to also bring a very beautiful quote that we find in a message that was psychographed about unity, unification by Dr. Brasilia de Menezes, which is something that reminds me a lot of when Mr. Nestor Mazzotti would come to our Spiritist movement here in Florida to help us and tell us about the need to be united. And there is this beautiful phrase in which Bezerra de Menezes is going to say that in order to have unification, we need to understand that the moment is urgent because it clearly defines the objective that we must strive for. But we must not rush the process, as it is crucial to honor each individual's conscience. And if I may say so, with Dr. Bezerra de Menezes' permission, hopefully he won't mind, I believe that as far as educating the child, we also have to bring this phrase and make it basically part of our lives in understanding that educating and guiding the child is urgent. It clearly defines the objective that we need to strive for, but it cannot be rushed. The process cannot be rushed. Bia was also really good in telling us about the world today. And we look at it, and also we mentioned in the beginning how different it is, how different of a world they have. Children that are falling into such heavy depression that they're also committing suicide at an early age. In here, 9 years old, being hung in the closet, parents finding them, not knowing how they got to that moment. And Allan Kardec, in posthumous works, he also brings us this information. He's going to say that if there wasn't a destruction that wasn't occurring fast enough at the moment that we are going from a transition from a world of trials and expiations into the world of regeneration, he was going to say suicides will increase in incredible proportions, even among children. So we were warned by it. Who are we dealing with in order to educate? He's going to tell us. One of the distinctive characteristics of the new generation is going to be an inborn faith. Wow. So they're coming with a very profound preparation for us. Not the blind faith that led many of us in the past existences to start hating the aspect of religion. No, they reason today. The answer, because I said so, does not work with the youth today. They reason. There is logic. They come with a common sentiment for love and God and their neighbor within that propensity for the good that Allan Kardec talked about. And so we are going to see Allan Kardec telling us that Spiritism is going to be the role in leading the youth to renewal, because it's going to destroy two great obstacles that oppose renewal: disbelief and fanaticism. It's going to provide a solid, enlightened faith that the youth can understand. Well, if I unite science, I can understand what this religious aspect of Spiritism is saying. And then I also unite philosophy. And so we have the triple aspect of Spiritism that starts making sense when we use dialogue, developing the sentiments, developing the ideas that start corresponding to the way the new generation starts to see things. And this is why Spiritism, Allan Kardec is going to say, is inborn in a state of intuition in the minds of those that make up the new generation. So he's going to talk about renewal, and he's also going to talk about how there is a responsibility for every educator. I have some questions that I was going to bring, but I'm just going to keep one here that I'm going to search from Viana de Carvalho in the book Spiritism, Spiritual Philosophy for Today's World, Atualidade do Pensamento Espírita, in which he's going to say the following. Is it often said that education begins in the cradle? In the current situation in which the family no longer has the traditional configuration, what is the most appropriate time to start educating children in specific institutions? What kind of institutions should they be? And they answer, what is to be done immediately is the reconstructing of the family, the mother cell of the social organism. Family, with the values, with the teachings, also utilizing the Spiritist body of knowledge to educate themselves. Oh, Spiritists, instruct yourselves and love one another. He's going to say we need to reconstruct the family. We are not referring to that traditional psychologically castrating, dominating organism headed for the predominant paternal or maternal figure, but a harmonious group of individuals in which balance is established and its foundations, and parents are models to be emulated. It goes directly with what Bia brought us in the beginning. Education starts from the moment when habits are instilled in children, correcting their instinctual reactions, shaping the characteristics that will make them morally, socially, and intellectually healthy individuals. We have so much more to bring, but I'm just going to finish with this beautiful image here that we have. And thanking you for your moment and bringing it back to our hosts. And remembering that as far as educating is concerned, old or young, we are all young sometimes, longer time, Jesus is always going to be the pathway to life and to the truth. So thank you so much. And we give it back to our hostesses for this morning, this afternoon, this evening.
Andrea and Bia, thank you so much, guys, for all the reflections that you brought. And there's so many things that we have to think, and it was really, really great. So we begin now our roundtable. We have some questions. The first one is for Bia, but Andrea, feel free to jump in. And it is it has a quote of the spirit Bezerra de Menezes, who says, all the spiritists that are really engaged in the rational faith must be committed to the task of spiritist education, because it is the sublime goal of spiritism. But sometimes the youth face some barriers inside of an institution, a spiritist institution, because they don't want to feel like they are restricted to the room of the lessons, right? They want to feel that they are part of the institution. How can we, what should we do to truly help a young person to feel that she or he, they are welcome to this institution, and that it is a space that they can practice the virtue of peace inside of it too?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And Andrea brought it up, and I think it's a very real situation that happens with all youth, is that we get to a point that, okay, our parents have been bringing us here, and now what? Where are we going to go from this? Like, is this what I want to do? And then, I see here in the United States, a lot of people go away for college, and then they leave the center, and then sometimes they find their way back because they are looking for something. But I think while we have the youth at our centers, I think giving them opportunities to lead. Maybe it is doing the initial message. Even if your lecture is in Portuguese, if you can allow them to do the initial message, even in English, things like that give the sense of importance. Maybe it's a certain role at the center that they are in charge of. Giving these opportunities of leadership, of taking action, of making a difference, and knowing that you're really adding value, I think that really helps you feel connected with any organization that they're a part of. And just another thing I would note that I think is so important is the positive relationships. And while this might not be directly about Spiritist teachings, having these positive relations is what allows youth to open their hearts and their minds to those teachings. And I see that, with all the supportive adults at the center, having a good relationship with the youth, really caring and engaging with the youth, but also with the peers, with other youth. When, especially here in the United States, there are very few, well, it's growing, but we grow up with very few Spiritist young adults as well. So when I grew up, there was no one that even knew what Spiritism was at my school. But being able to come together as a community in my center with the other youth that are there, and having friends that finally do know what Spiritism is and do have the same values, that community becomes so impactful. And I know that, where we're located, there might not be a lot of youth or a lot of young adults. But now with this technology, we've had so many great groups meeting virtually. We have a monthly study group that we do in English, Portuguese, and Spanish, and soon Italian as well. And even here in the United States, I've seen we have youth retreats where we can meet all together in person. But actually from that, a lot of group chats started. A lot of groups, there's some groups of 13-year-olds that are talking to each other, and now they're friends, even from across the US. And there's also young adults that now meet once a week to study Spiritism together virtually. And so these opportunities of connecting Spiritist young adult and building that community, that positive relationship sparks that interest in, oh yeah, I want to read this book that my friend is reading. I want to go to the center too. I want to support my friend in their lecture. And so that community of youth, of Spiritist youth, even if it's in a virtual setting, is super important for youth to feel connected and connected with the center, and then to open their hearts to Spiritism.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Bia more. I think that I don't know if there is a resistance, but we need to start trusting the youth on what they can do. Like Bia said, we have one of the teens here in Florida that after the youth panel, in which was led by Bia and other people in this symposium, they took it upon themselves to do a book club. So, for instance, they would reach out and say, what do you think about this book? Should I read this book? And so we guide them, but we empower them that they are the ones acquiring that independence to make decisions for themselves, because it's not imposed. It is something that through reason, they're going to start understanding, what, I can do this. I understand Spiritism in such a way that it makes sense. We talk about reincarnation. We talk about their immortality. We talk about all of the positive things that can come about. And this idea that they start forming friends utilizing technology is the power of the Spirit. If Paul was alive today, he would say, it is the power of the Spirit, is what they have in their hands. And it is a beautiful thing. Bia mentioned at the beginning, artificial intelligence. We have to be very careful. Are we guiding them towards understanding how to utilize it? We saw that teenager, the 14-year-old who killed himself because he created this character utilizing AI. And in this world that he put himself in, he killed himself. He was in love with that character. So we need to start guiding them towards utilizing this power of the Spirit in such a way that it is positive. One of the things that we were talking about with the Spiritist Federation of Florida is using some of the resources to allow, for example, these teens that may be bilingual to go to the encounters in other countries. For example, Brazil has a huge youth movement. We see the photos. There's so many preteens and teens combined doing the work. And we need to start empowering it. We need to start supporting them. We need to lead the way to let them take on, because their vision of the future is different than ours. And if Spiritism is instilled in such a way that it's not an imposition, eventually they'll come back to it if they go to that little break that Bia talked about. I went through it. You finalize high school and you go to life and you start supporting yourself and you have to pay bills and you don't have a lot of time. But then all of a sudden, life comes and kicks you in the butt a little bit and it hurts. And we remember the seed that was instilled. We remember the adult that was a guide for us in the Spiritist Center. And we reach out. We need to make ourselves available for the youth and speak to them in their language in which they feel dignified, respected, looked up to. I look up to Bia. I am just so happy to see somebody at her age doing what she's doing. I wasn't doing that. How old are you, Bia?
25.
25. I started when I was like 26, 27, and she's already been in for a long, long time. And so I believe that is one of the things. The other thing is imposing ideas, dogmatic ideas. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for us. This is why we have a book of questions and answers, because they also have questions and answers to be answered in such a way that it makes sense to them, that it is done in their language, and that they feel happy to go to the Spiritist Center. I'm going to mention a name here, Gabriel, and Bia knows him. He's conducting study groups with the youth at the Spiritist Center. We have plans of podcasts. There is so much that they can do utilizing what they like, and that's what we should be doing with them right now.
Okay, that's great. Andrea and Bia, I really enjoyed watching you sharing your reflections. Andrea, the way that you refer back to what Bia mentioned before gave me the impression that you guys are really like talking together side by side, and that was very inspiring. Yeah. So I have a question for you here, Andrea. You mentioned that Spiritism is an empowering tool to help the youth build moral values.
Mhm.
So, given the current scenario that all the challenges that we need to face, all challenges of the world in transition, and with all these distractions going on, like AI and games and social media, how do you think the youth can use Spiritism as a tool to build inner peace?
Mhm.
So, what are the most important feelings and virtues that you think they need to build in their hearts to translate that into their actions?
Yeah, there is so many movements in the internet that I personally like to follow. One of them is the Charter for Compassion, which doesn't matter what religion you are, what creed or race. It talks about developing compassion so that in a way you are able to see others the way that you would want to be seen and react to others in the way that you would want to react. We see movements of kids that when a fight starts, they take out their cell phone to start recording, and then all of a sudden, there's this beautiful video that comes this kid, and it was actually true. And he started communicating, like, what are you guys doing? Why are you fighting? Why don't you communicate? And that had such an impact, right? When you answer the aggressiveness with the peacefulness, trying to understand what brought on. Kids today, they're much more mature than we are. But I think they also need to understand what their feelings are. When they're feeling sad, are they feeling angry? And they don't know how to communicate that. When they're feeling angry, is there something else happening behind that? This is why the guidance from an adult, whether in the family home and the Spiritist Center, is extremely important, because we're talking about developing their character, developing not only the intellect, which they come much more advanced than that, but also trying to allow them to understand the importance of spiritual modification. Why do I need to do that? Right? And we start communicating this. Is it better to be aggressive, to fight? Or isn't it better to start looking at someone the way you would want to be looked at, with respect? We see a lot of that happening today. especially within this generation that defend the ideas of equality. They defend that. Movements of, for example, Black Lives Matter and other things that we see happening. We see a lot of the youth involved because they come with this innate sense of justice. So what is justice? What does justice entail? Justice is part of one of the divine laws. The law of justice, love, and charity. It's one. So we start making them understand that. I think there is this beautiful way that we could perhaps make them understand, which is the 3 steps to get there, which is the BIP factor: benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness. But in Portuguese, it's BIP. And we talk about we are all able to be benevolent, right? We are. We cannot do good things. We can be benevolent. We start talking about indulgence. Well, if I want others to accept me and understand my frailties and understand that I have imperfections, they also deserve that. So it starts being logic, right? And also the forgiveness of offenses, which is something that perhaps the youth doesn't yet understand the powerful of forgiving, of carrying on. And this is perhaps something that we can also focus, because when they come with those feelings, there is something behind it that perhaps we can help them digest and go through. Bia talked about this today. It's very common to have a psychologist, to have a psychiatrist, utilizing these professionals that we have in society to help them strive and grow and become the better that they are. And we see them openly talking about that. My psychiatrist said this, my psychologist said that, and also utilizing the medication in a proper way to help them deal with the chemical aspects of what may be happening within them. So I feel that I don't have the authority to be talking about this, but I am seeing parents going through some struggles, and they are doing everything that they can to guide their kids. They are addressing the feeling of anger that they see them. They're spending a lot of money. And it's important that we see that happening, because in the Gospel according to Spiritism, we see the Spirit Erasto, I think, or St. Augustine, in which he says, at the end, when God says, what did you make of the child that I entrusted upon you? The parent can say, everything. I did everything I could. And so there comes a moment in which the Spirit is going to bring all of itself and all of the traits that they are. But if they receive the proper guidance, nourishment, assistance, perhaps those seeds are going to develop, and it's going to be a little bit easier for them to partake in a world of transition. For them, perhaps it's going to be easier than it was for us. There is so much that they have available to them. The idea is how to get them to utilize it in the proper way that it actually empowers them to say, wow, I am a divine child of God. I am the heir of the universe. I start filling up my self-esteem. I no longer need to utilize drugs or alcohol to annul or to silence that pain, because I have psychologists and psychiatrists at my available made to me. So there is a lot that we can do, perhaps because each child, each youth is a universe in itself, sometimes even unknown to them. Sometimes we are actually those that don't really understand what's happening in this universe within, but we can facilitate in getting them there in this way. Perhaps hopefully I answered. If not, I hope Bia can sum it up a little bit for me.
Yeah, no, I loved all the points you mentioned. And I think the one thing I would add on is self-compassion, and talking about self-compassion with the youth, because what I see in myself and in others around me is that part of it is being hard on ourselves, right? Sometimes it's like putting so much pressure to do the right thing, to make the right choice, and that when one thing goes wrong, it feels like you can't handle it. And that's also, I think, a really important thing that we don't talk about enough is teaching youth self-compassion, that also forgive yourself when you make a mistake, or if that doesn't go right, if you can't do this, that's okay. And I think that is one value, one virtue that's really we don't talk about enough, and I think would make a big difference in the lives of youth.
And if I may, just really quick, because Bia said that, and I remembered one of the things that we brought from Viana de Carvalho, in which the question was posed is, what are the most important aspects that should occupy the centers of educators' concern, bearing in mind the formation of the youth and what they're going through? And Vienna answered, Jesus synthesized the whole thesis of human behavior in one simple sentence: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's the golden rule. It speaks to everybody and anyone, including those that are the youth that are still so immersed in materialism. It makes sense to them. And so what he says is, understanding the educator, the parent, the educator is going to understand that there needs to be activity to develop their ethical and their moral values, demonstrating through logic and love that life has a profound meaning and that they are part of that. And that the greatest meaning within their lives is actually making the most of whom they are. Perhaps there needs to be a lot of that to develop their self-esteem, to understanding how much they can do. Paul of Tarsus, before he became Paul and he was Saul, he had all that energy, that creation that he was actually channeling towards one aspect of emotion, of feelings, of thoughts, of his reality. And once he saw the light and he was blinded for 3 days, all that energy, all of that quality, greatness of Paul actually was channeled towards another way. And this is something that can be done at any moment. And usually in the teenage years, when it's so hard, parents try to get there before they turn 18 when they're considered an adult. It's hard, but it's doable. So I just wanted to say that to parents because I imagine how difficult it is. But I have seen many examples, especially in the Spiritist Center, and applaud the efforts that parents make in order to get their youth to develop those moral and ethical values.
You guys were talking about the beautiful things that we already can see in the heart of young people. And I was thinking, and the next question is something to do with it. We have a 2-year-old little girl in our Spiritist Education for Babies class. And this week she was with her grandpa. And she asked him 3 things. Grandpa, can you open your eyes? Now close your eyes. Now feel Jesus. And it's just such a cute moment. And it made us think that sometimes as Spiritist educators, we are always looking at the challenges of this task, right? And we miss all the love, all the seeds that have been spread. We are just looking for, oh my God, it's difficult. I have to do so many things and it's difficult to prepare the lessons and, us, imperfect spirit. So what you, Andrea, and what you, Bia, would say now to a Spiritist educator who needs a little bit of motivation to keep going with this important task?
I resort to Allan Kardec because if you
That's
saw,
perfect.
yeah, because if you saw the challenges and what happened, at the time that he was traveling, he's the one that could say in the posthumous work, he brings the message. He starts with, "Oh, Spiritists, the future belongs to you and to all the individuals of the heart and devotion who have accepted the task of educating. Don't worry about the obstacles because there is nothing that can hinder the divine providence's design. Work tirelessly and give thanks to God for having placed you in the forehand work of disseminating Spiritism and trying to instill it in the heart of the youth. It is a post of honor," he says, "which you yourselves have asked and for which you yourselves show worthy with your courage, with your perseverance, and with your dedication." We see a lot of educators becoming discouraged, tired, forgetting the spiritual influences that are actually guiding them away from that task that is so important. And we see in the book, The Messengers, how every Spiritist worker has been prepared. So find strength in recognizing that, remembering that Jesus is the governor of our planet. I mean, he is the educator. He is the one that's saying, "Let the children come to me." And being able to guide that indeed is a post of honor in which the educator should feel proud to have accepted, but to continue persevering and always have courage, always have perseverance, and always maintain that dedication that is so beautiful within their hearts.
Absolutely. I mean, that really says it all. And I think just knowing that even with all the rebellious youth who are going through, they're learning, they're questioning who they are, what they believe in, but knowing that even if they don't show it, those seeds that is being planted, that is growing within them, that they might not be saying it right now, expressing it right now, but when they face a challenge later on in their life, that is going to come to mind. They have that within them, those good values, that Spiritist teachings that, like we were saying, you go away for college or you start life, but then you come back because you remember, oh, I remember this thing, or oh yeah, let me do that. Let me take a moment to pray. And when things get hard, they will go back to it and that will be within them. So even if sometimes we're not seeing the direct results, know that we're planting those seeds that are going to make a difference later on.
Indeed.
Well, so I have one more question. It should be super quick and short. Bia, you mentioned that we cannot transmit peace if you don't have inner peace. Also, you mentioned that we are constantly inspired by teachers, spiritist educators, family members throughout this process of building our own peace, right? So based on that, that we are influencing our students and children and youth that come to us throughout life that we need to educate. So, what piece of advice you'd give to workers, spiritists, youth spiritist workers to be like united, collaborating, building that atmosphere of peace in the spiritist center so they can really transmit all that peace, love, and sense of belonging and friendship to the kids, to the children?
Yeah, no, that is a great point. I think no one can do it alone, right? That's why we live in a society. That's why we're all here together. Again, now even beautifully virtually, we can connect a lot more people. So I think we need to tap into that connection. Tap into, as we were saying, if there's only a few youth at your center, we can now connect virtually with any other center that has more, that has other youth, and we can create this connection not only of the youth, that's really important, but of the educators as well, and collaborate. There's so many amazing things that are happening in all these different pockets of the world that when we collaborate and we can bring those together and share it, and even if it's in a different language, but then there's someone that can help translate it, and that way, like, we're going to create a really rich kind of backlog database of all this stuff that we can share and collaborate with one another. And I think it makes the load on each of us a little lighter to be able to have people we can rely on and who support us.
That's great. Andrea, do you have anything to add to the
No,
final
I think she said it all. It's changing the C, instead of competing, contributing, right? Because that's something that needs to stop and needs to really, the spirit of contribution, of being able to share and help one another is extremely important. Bia has become someone who, through the International Spiritist Council and the Spiritist Federation, the United States Spiritist Federation, is a point. It's someone that we know we can go to. And of course, she's going to delegate because she can't do it alone, right? So this is also very cool because we see educators coming together and finding strength in one another, because it's extremely hard. Some Spiritist centers only have one educator and kids start coming. So what can we do, right? So I think the spirit of contribution instead of competition is really what we need. This is why Bezerra talked about the need to be united and unified as being an urgent thing that should be happening in the Spiritist movement.
Wonderful. So
yeah,
wonderful message here. And I think we are getting close to the end, right, Tati? So,
Yes.
okay, I can't believe. So it's about to end. But so once again, we thank our dear speakers and everyone that's participating in this moment with us. We remind you that this subject, children and young people, building virtues for peace, is started to be addressed here in our life. But next year, it would be the theme of our workshop that will happen to Spiritist educators from all over the world. Finally, we'd like to take this opportunity to invite you to the Spiritist youth around the world to join us, the 11th World Spiritist Congress, with the team Live After Life that will happen next year on October 4th and 5th in Uruguay. It would be a great opportunity to connect hearts and to deepen our understanding of spiritual life during this and throughout the reincarnation process. Stay tuned to the International Spiritist Council promotional channels for more information. Okay, so with our hearts full of gratitude for this moment, uh, we'd like to thank you again for being here, and may our Jesus guide us throughout this evangelization process, and may we move forward united, connecting hearts and knowledge through Spiritism. So to conclude the meeting, then I'm gonna invite you to raise your thoughts so I can do the final prayer. In the name of Jesus, God, the good spirits, may we connect our thoughts, our feelings through one channel of light and love. And we thank everybody for being here today. We thank our good spirits for the intuition, for being close and emanating such positive energies so we could be like connected through this channel of love. May the spiritist ideas be in your hearts, opening, enlightening our consciousness so we can continue improving and getting better and developing our morals and virtues so we can become better people, better spirits, and keep working, serving around us, building our virtues. Because when we build our virtues, we are eventually also getting the inner peace and getting to the kingdom of God that we want for our lives. May all the good examples around us, our friends, spiritists, educators, children, the youth, with their virtues, may we be encouraged, inspired by those virtues so we can learn with them. We can see Jesus through their actions, and we may learn and put in practice all the virtues that we lack. May the light of Jesus be in our lives, connecting us with our families and friends so we can be inspired and persevering in our tasks, in our daily lives, and just do our best. And may the love of God be with us today and always. So be it.
So be it.
Yeah.